Hello everyone, welcome to the Penman project. The purpose of this channel is to help you learn cursive handwriting. If you don't have much background in calligraphy or penmanship, this is a good place for you to start. By the way, I'm not a native speaker, so please excuse my English. If you find it difficult to follow, please turn on the subtitle. Here's a list of everything I'm going to discuss. You need a pencil refills, some paper, an optional eraser, maybe a ruler, and a paperclip. I'll go over them one by one. If you follow my advice, the whole set of stationery should cost you around $5. Now let's get started with the pencil. For beginners, I suggest that you start with a 0.5mm HB lead mechanical pencil. I wouldn't suggest that you use a wood pencil to practice handwriting, because the tip of the wood pencil gets blunt over time, and when you sharpen the tip, it can suddenly change from very blunt to very sharp, which can break the consistency of your writing. Also, I don't recommend that you invest too early in buying a fountain pen or dip pen. Those writing instruments can be expensive and are more suitable for advanced users. It is true that a dip pen can be more expressive, but here we're just getting started with the basics, such as how to keep your slant angle consistent. After you have mastered the fundamentals, you may upgrade your writing instrument. Right now, what's most important is that you are comfortable with the grip section of the pencil and that you are choosing the right lead. So next, let's talk about lead refills. There are two things you need to consider when buying the lead: the diameters and softness. The most common diameters are 0.3, 0.5 and 0.7 millimeters. As you can see from the picture, the difference is very pronounced. In my opinion, the 0.3mm lead is just too scratchy and uncomfortable to write with, and it's not a good option for beginners. On the other hand, the 0.7mm lead is too broad, and the broad stroke will hide a lot of the details of your letters. It is good for note-taking because you can write very quickly and you don't have to get every letter perfect, while you can still easily achieve the uniform look of an elegant handwriting. But if you're trying to improve your penmanship, this is equivalent to cheating, so it's not recommended. For beginners, the 0.5mm lead is probably the best place to start. The guide sheet I created works best for this lead, and I'm also using it for my daily writing. Here is a writing sample to compare the three different lead diameters. The next thing you need to consider when choosing the lead is the softness of the lead. Here's another writing sample to demonstrate the graphite grading scale. The letter H stands for hardness, B stands for blackness, and the number is the measure of intensity. For example here, 3B is blacker than 2B, which is blacker than 1B. HB is the most common option, and is typically what you will get by default when you buy a mechanical pencil. Anything harder than HB is not recommended, because the harder the lead, the more pressure it requires for you to write, and you can get tired very quickly. On the other hand, you don't want the lead to be too soft neither, because you will lose all the friction and the tactile feedback on the paper, which will make it very hard for you to control the line. So for beginner, the best place to start with is probably the HB lead. In case you're feeling uncomfortable or just getting curious, then you may gently nudge in either direction of the grading scale until you find what works best for you. The next item on the list is paper, and that brings up another advantage of using pencil. That is, you don't need to worry too much about paper. If you are using a fountain pen, then you might need heavier paper, such as a rodeo pad, so that the ink doesn't bleed through. But if you're using pencil, any kind of paper would work, and there's only one requirement, that is, the paper should be blank. The reason you need a blank paper is that you need to overlay the blank paper on a guide sheet as you practice, and you need a ruler to create the guide sheet. The guide sheet looks like this. It has 5 spaces. The middle 3 spaces are 4 mm each. The top and the bottom spaces are 2 mm each. There is also a 58-degree slant angle, which determines how much your handwriting leans toward the right. If you are already writing with a consistent scale and slant, then you should use the ruler to make your own guide sheet. Otherwise, feel free to use my guide sheet, which you can find in the description below. I don't suggest that you write directly on the guide sheet, because the lines of the guide sheet will hide some of the details of your letters, which make them look better than they actually are. By the way, when you are printing the guide sheet, make sure it's printed at the original scale. The next item I'd like to discuss is the eraser. This may sound strange to you, but I suggest that you shouldn't use the eraser at all. If you write something bad, you don't have to erase it. Just write it again and see if you can improve. Another reason you should not use the eraser on top of your pencil is that when you flip your pencil 180 degrees to erase something and then flip it back, the pencil is no longer at the same orientation as before, and the tip may actually land on the sharper edge, which can suddenly break the consistency of your writing. The last item on the list is a binder or paperclip, the purpose of which is just to bind the practice sheet and the guide sheet together. That's basically everything you need to get started. The pencil cost me $1. The lead cost 99 cents. You'll probably get some paper and binder from your school library or workplace for free. You shouldn't need an eraser, and the ruler is also optional. So the whole set of stationery should cost you around $5. I hope you find this video useful. If you like it, please subscribe for more tutorials. And in the next video, we will actually start writing letters. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.